April's wrap up, I just want to check in about Murder Road, which I finished reading. This was my first finished book of the month. It was not the first book I started this month, but it was the first one I finished. And it is not my favorite Simone St. James. It's maybe my least favorite Simone St. James, but that's not saying it's a bad book, because I love Simone St. James. In Murder Road, there is a young married couple, and they are on their way to their honeymoon. They get a little bit lost and turned around in a dark and scary road. Then they see a woman on the side of the road who clearly needs assistance. So they pull up, they say, hey, do you want to get in the car? First she's like, nah. Then finally she's like, I guess I actually need help. She is bleeding and scared and says that someone is gonna get them. They get to the hospital after being chased by some headlights. They get to the hospital where she promptly bleeds out, and they are arrested for her murder. They're covered in blood. As things unfold, you learn that this is actually 19 years of murders of people on this road. Unexplained, unsolved murders. And what annoyed me about this is that these two young people who would have been about 8 years old when the first murder was committed are seriously held in suspicion of all the murders for a long time. Well, it felt like a long time, longer than I wanted it to be. And there's this like good cop, bad cop kind of vibe, and some like really light police procedural stuff. And I don't vibe with that. So when we finally got past that, what felt like forever, and maybe it wasn't, but it felt like a really long time of boringness. When we finally got past that and we were into the supernatural part of the story, I was totally into it and I really enjoyed it. There's nothing wrong with this book except that it did some things that I don't enjoy in a book, in a mystery. I feel also that this one is lacking that really kind of deep connection that you usually get with a Simone St. James protagonist. And I don't know if that's because there were two protagonists. The protagonist is a couple. And so I don't know if she couldn't figure out where to lay her like loyalties as the author or what. But usually I feel in a Simone St. James that there's really strong atmosphere, really strong sense of place, and really strong character development to accompany these weird off-the-wall supernatural storylines. And this just really didn't feel like it had the character development or the sense of place, really, because the town is not their place. Like they have to stay in this town. It's not their place. And then two of the characters, well, the protagonists, two random characters, the protagonists don't really have their own sense of place. So if her intention was to kind of unmoor us, she really successfully does that. So maybe I can't fault her for that, but it wasn't what I enjoy in a Simone St. James. So when I rate things, I still gave it 4 stars. I do think it's a great story. And I really liked, once we got into the mystery and the supernatural and the unveiling of what was really going on and all of this, I really enjoyed that. It just has some stuff in it that I don't particularly look for in my books. So it isn't my favorite Simone St. James story, but it is still a Simone St. James, and I still really had a great time. I had a great time. So this may be your favorite. Who knows? Let me know if it is. Simone St. James, Murder Road. First book of April down. Hello. It is a little bit late on Wednesday, and I have just finished Clear by Karis Davies. It's a very short book, less than 200 pages. It took me like maybe an hour and a half to read. Very, very worth the read. It takes place in Scotland in the 1840s. It is the time of two very big social upheavals. So it's the time of the clearance, which is when the landowners were forcibly removing all of the rural poor from their land. Prior to that, for centuries, they had been using these people on their land to work their land. Now they think that it will be a better investment for them to give the land to sheep. And so they want to remove the people, not have the people on their land anymore, replace them with sheep, and they don't need people to mind the sheep. The sheep will just take care of themselves. And so they want to forcibly remove these people, and they place them on plots of land that are purposefully too small for them to sustain themselves. So the people who have enough land to plant potatoes, but then we know that in the 1870s, just a few decades later, the famine is going to come and these people have absolutely nothing. And this is also the landowners that have ultimate power can make more money. It's also the time of the Great Disruption in the Scottish Church. They had a system whereby landowners could choose a minister to put in place in their land's church that politically supported their ideals. 474 ministers said, this is wrong, and they left the church. But in leaving the church, they lose their homes. They live in a home adjacent to their pulpit. They lose their pulpit, they lose their home, and they lose their income. And so you had 474 pastors suddenly without work. And they're going to start the new church. But it's taking time to get people on board and to make money and to find places to preach. This story, Clear, brings together two people, one person from each of those situations. So you've got a minister who's just left the church. You've got a man, Ivar, what's the minister's name? You've got John, who's just left the church, his wife, Mary, and Ivar. Ivar is living on land. He's the last person on this island. He's the last person who speaks his language. He's the last person living on this island, which is land, the owner of which is friends with the brother-in-law of John. John, in need of financial help, having exhausted all of his ideas, goes to his brother-in-law and says, can you please help me find a job? So there's this landowner who needs someone to go and kick Ivar off the land, the only place he's ever lived, the only place his ancestors have ever lived, the only place he's ever known. And he's never left this island. And now John has been tasked with going and removing him, forcibly if need be. And so these two men who don't speak the same language, who have not the same culture, who have not the same life experience, are thrust together. When John arrives on the island, he pretty immediately falls down a cliff. And so he's actually completely reliant upon Ivar. And Ivar doesn't know why this man is on his island. From time to time, people show up on the island. He talks about how there was a group of men from, I think, Sweden or Norway who came to shoot birds and go fishing. Like, people sometimes people have come and stolen his own sheep. He's got a couple of sheep. He's not aware of why this man is on the island. They are thrust together in these strange circumstances for weeks while John heals and they kind of learn to communicate in a mix of English and I think it's Nor, of English and Norn, N-O-R-N, Norn. This whole story exists because of an old dictionary from the 1900s that Davies came upon in the Scottish archives, in which a man was trying to create like a dictionary of a dying language similar to, if not Norn. And this whole story comes out of that. Just finding those words. Clear, the title of the book, is incredibly infused with meaning. You've got the clearing of the church, the clearing of the land. You've got the clarity that comes with communication. And then there's another situation, which I haven't even talked about, which I haven't even mentioned, which I won't, because I don't want to ruin the book for you. But there's another situation where things become clear for the wife. So clarity, like the dawning of knowledge, clarity of communication, clearing of the land, clearing of the church, clear. The island is often foggy, the lack of clarity. This book is so short, but it is so readable, and it is so gloriously infused with depth and things to ponder. It's beautifully written, easy to read, and yet I think it's the kind of book that if you go back into it 100 times, you'll understand it 100 times differently. Yeah, powerful little book that you could take a long time with. Yeah, very good. Wonderful. Excuse the mess behind me, but I want to talk to you about Old Flames and New Fortunes by Sarah Hogle. It's so floppy and lovely. I loved reading this book. Just physically loved reading it. This is a book by the same author that wrote Just Like Magic, which was a Christmas book I read a couple of years ago and really enjoyed. This one is one that was not on my TBR. I realized that my TBR is really kind of dark and not spring-like. And I wanted something a little bit different. And so when I saw that this was out, I picked it up on a whim. And it was a whim that paid off. Not only do I have a brand new, really wonderfully floppy book, but I also had a really fun time with it. It is the 10th of April, and I've only finished 3 books, including this one. That is not like me. That is not like me at all. I don't know how many books I'm going to read this month. We'll find out. But Old Flames, New Fortunes is a second chance romance, open door, about a girl who, her and her sisters are kind of witches. It's a little practical magic. It's like they are, but that's not the focus of the book. It's just kind of like a quirky thing they have. And they run a shop that sells candles and lotions and flowers. And our girl, Romina, she does her magic by creating bouquets. She kind of speaks the language of flowers, but also just makes up the language of flowers as she goes along. She gives meaning to certain flowers. And I'm telling you way more about this now than is actually even in the book, really. It's in the book a little bit, especially the first chapter, but for the most part, that's just talking about the color of her hair. It's that kind of, it's just to show you this is an obvious thing about her. This is just a part of her, and it's part of the story, but it's not really about this. And I think that this is part of the story because this is a new series for Sarah Hogle, and she's set it in a fictional town that is a little bit quirky, and it's called Moonville. And she's done this so that strange things can happen in Moonville. And I don't know if the books in the series are going to follow all of the sisters. That is a possibility. Or if it's just going to be people in Moonville. But this first installment of Moonville with this quirky Romina who does magic through bouquets and runs a flower shop is lovely. There's a little bit of fake dating. She has to fake date her friend and business partner for a brief time when her high school and college sweetheart, who happens to also be the love of her life, comes back into town for his mother's second marriage. Will Romina and Alex get together again? Only time will tell, but I have to tell you that there is the greatest playlist for our couple. It's the RT and Me playlist, and it features songs like Sunblind by Fleet Foxes, Sweet Disposition by Temper Trap, New Slang by The Shins. It's just great. Did I go into Spotify and create this playlist? Yes, I did. Did it probably already exist? Yeah, probably. But you know what? I have to go the hard way. And it's so great. This is feel good and adorable. It's laugh out loud funny at times. It is heartfelt. It is a little bit nostalgic because sometimes it goes back into memories, and so it goes back into like the early 2000s, late 90s. And Romina and Alex are cute and sweet and lovely, and you're rooting for them the whole time. The reason they broke up is a little bit annoying to me and some people. It's a communication issue. It always is a communication issue. That seems like it would have been easily surmountable simply by speaking to each other. But Sarah Hogle has enough charm in her writing to make that minimally annoying. Overall, it was a super fun read, and I really enjoyed it. And if you're looking for a very springy, super fun read about a second chance romance, populated with a bunch of really fun characters in a really interesting place with some unique capabilities, then Old Flames and New Fortunes in all its glorious floppityness might be for you. I'm gonna go clean my kitchen. See you later. I just got home from work. It's a Friday. I'm actually going back to work to go to the play Sense and Sensibility, but I thought it was the perfect time last night to finish my reread of Persuasion and to watch Persuasion. I think I watched the 2007 BBC version, which is not a great version, but it was the one that I have seen the least of, or the one I have seen least recently. This book, what can be said about this book that has not already been said? I was taken with the fact this time that Anne and Captain Wentworth remain in love, though out of contact, for 8 years. Neither of them move on. Now, I've always known this, but it really was like a deterrent to me of enjoyment of this book in the past. 8 years feels ridiculous to not move on. In my opinion, 8 years feels ridiculous. But this time around, 8 years felt possible. 8 years felt right. And it's so ironic that it's such a short little book to encapsulate the most time covered in any of Jane Austen's work, because although it happens before the story, it completely impacts the story. And that's not really, I'm doubting myself now, but I really don't think that's an element in any of the other Jane Austen books. So time is really important in Persuasion. There's also, of course, the miscommunication, which annoys me to no end. It's another reason why it was never a favorite. But I kind of got it this time. This tongue-tiedness one of them waiting for the other to start. That Anne is persuaded by people in her life that she thinks maybe know better than her what she wants. That she allows logic and not her heart to decide her action, and that leads to a separation that's never quite complete. Because even though they are separated, somehow they're still together. Somehow. And she watches him from afar, but never tries to contact him because she's the one who broke it off, because she was persuaded. It all feels really solid. And then there's him who's like, it's not going to be me. Like, it's not going to be me, even though we're suddenly thrown together again, even though we're together. Like, you rejected me for ridiculous reasons, and it's not going to be me. And then he starts to believe the most ridiculous things about her. That she's engaged to different people, that she believes he's engaged. He's so, like, unaware. How is he so unaware that his intentions are being misconstrued for someone else in her life? How is he so unaware? It's just plausible. And I never thought it was plausible before, but it's plausible to me now. It's a fun read. It's a really fun read. It's a little bit of a frustrating read. It's a very satisfying ending, of course. Of course it is. It's Jane Austen. But what struck me this read, and I think this is maybe my, I don't know, 6th or 7th read of this book. What struck me was the 8 years. 8 years. Wild. But possible. And then, well, and before I move on, all it took was having a conversation. There would be so many books that don't exist if characters just talked to each other. So many books. So many books that did not exist. Anyway, I also finished my reread of The Witch of Blackbird Pond. It was slow going for me because I just kept getting distracted by other things, not other books, other things. But I'm really happy that I finished this. It is just as delightful as always. If you've never read it, it is the story of Kit, who was raised in Barbados, and things are done differently in Barbados than they are in Puritan England, where she is sent to go live with her aunt and uncle and their children, and things are very messy for her there because she is this free spirit, and everything she does, all the people that she makes friends with, all the choices that she makes, like down to the fact that she swims, all these things mean she's a witch in Puritan England. And then she makes friends with the witch, who's actually just a Quaker woman trying to live her life. It's such a great book, and if you've never read it, you should read it. And I also finished my reread of Agnes Grey, which I think was only my 3rd time reading it. And it was lovely, and it felt a little stale, maybe, like a little dry. It has some really funny moments in it. It has some really sad moments. It has some really heartfelt moments. I don't quite believe the romance in it. It very much reads like a daydream that Anne Bronte must have had at some point in her life. It very much reads like a daydream. And there's something kind of special about that, and it really stands out from the other Bronte works. It even really stands out from Anne's other work, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. But it's a different kind of book. It is a different kind of book. It reads like a daydream. Anyway, it's the weekend. I need to get the little pooch out and about for a little bit before I have to break her heart and leave her home alone in the evening so that I can go watch some high schoolers put on Sense and Sensibility. I'll see you later. Bye. Is you the most beautiful girl in the whole wide world? Lola, do you want a cookie? Or do you want peanut butters? Or do you want the bunnies? You want the bunnies? Oh, we don't have the bunnies. Yeah, the bunnies are outside, huh? Yeah, the bunnies are outside, but there's no bunnies. There's all glimes. The bunnies is all glimes. Yeah. Yeah, it is. There's all glimes. So, do you want Snuggles? Snuggles? Yeah, you want... Oh, somebody's walking up the stairs. Do you want Snuggles? You are the cutest little beast. Yes, you are. You are the cutest little beast. MacGooper. Hey, I have another book to talk to you about. I finished Abby Jimenez's Just for the Summer last night. This was really fun. And also very serious, but it was good. This is the third book in a series, the first two books of which I did not like. It's like a companion series. I didn't enjoy the first two books at all. I barely remember them. I pretty much skimmed Part of Your World. So, and I know that's her like crowd favorite, but for whatever reason, I loved this one. And what drew me to it in the first place, what made me give it a try, was the premise that there's a guy and a girl, and they both decide to date each other for a specific set of dates, 4 dates, and then they're gonna break up because they believe that their exes always find their soulmates right after they break up with them. And so their master plan is to date each other for the summer and then break up and find their soulmate. I think we can all see where this is going to backfire. This isn't rocket science, it's a romance novel, so it makes all the sense in the world that they are each other's soulmate. There's no surprise there. There's no twists or turns in that regard. What's great about this book is not just the progression of their romance, which is very sweet. The banter between them is lovely. There's text communication between them, which is very funny. There's a best friend that, the main character has a best friend that brings all kinds of like good-natured, laugh out loud moments. All of that is wonderful. The romance is wonderful. But what really gives this heart is the struggles that the two individuals are going through apart from the romance, the family dynamics, both with mothers. And I won't give any spoilers because, like I said, that's where the heart of this story comes from. Yes, it is a romance. Yes, you fall in love with the characters. Yes, they fall in love with each other. All of that is a given. But what's really great about this is the intensity and the reality and the possibleness, if that's a word. I'm an English teacher. I'm going to say that's a word. The possibleness of the family dynamics, the complications. Things are complicated, and they're complicated in a believable way, but also a dramatic way, on both sides. And it's this that brings character growth for both of them. It's not the relationship. Although they are good for each other and they help each other grow, that's not the soul of the story, in my opinion anyway. And that, I think, is why I really liked this. There's real character development, real character growth. that comes independently for each of them. They are independent beings who happen to want to do life together by the end of the book. And that feels really lovely. Yeah, just really liked it. There is a bit of a, I'm still have Persuasion on the brain. For you, you've just seen me talk about Persuasion just a couple of minutes ago, but for me, it's been days and days since I finished Persuasion, and I still have Persuasion on the brain. And so there's a part in this book which really hit me hard because of Persuasion, where they're separated for 6 months. And in my opinion, for reasons that didn't need to be a separation. They won't contact each other, and then what will happen when they get thrown back together? And so it felt, that part I think maybe feels intense no matter what, but it felt very intense because I was kind of reading it through Persuasion. And I've also this month watched, I don't generally talk about what I watch here, but I've also watched this month the new Netflix short series One Day. I've been obsessed with the soundtrack, which is just amazing. It's 120 songs long. It takes days to listen to, but it's so good. And I've just been listening to kind of the first start, the first, I don't know, maybe 25-ish songs on repeat, loving them. But broke my heart watching this show. I'd seen the movie. I had already seen the movie years and years ago. And if you don't know the story of One Day, it's basically a couple. They're not really a couple, two friends. They're not really friends. And it's the story of the relationship, the story of the progression of their relationship as told on a specific day in various years moving forward. The movie is intense. I won't tell you what happens, but something sad happens. And the show is even more intense because you're more invested because you've spent more time with these characters. I don't know what possessed me to watch this show. It is so sad. So sad. It is so sad. But there are similar themes between Persuasion and Just for the Summer and One Day, and I don't know why I'm torturing myself. So I'm gonna go read something happy. Next on the docket, something happy, because there's a lot of loss and separation and sadness and silence and joy and loss and separation and sadness in these books. There's a lot of joy in this one too, though. A lot of joy. Oh, hello, Lola. Would you like to say hi? Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm getting kisses. Oh no. Oh no. Bye. Welcome from my classroom once again. We just finished our school-wide annual lip sync, where each class does a lip sync to a particular song. It's really a dance contest, actually, because none of the kids actually lip sync, but they choreograph and the whole class dances, and it's super fun. We were assigned Beyonce this year, so they did a mashup of Who Runs the World, Single Ladies, and what's the one with the St. Texas? So they did that, and then the staff also surprise them every year because they expect it with a lip sync dance as well. And so I participated in that without having attended a single rehearsal or watching the video or anything. I just went out there because you can't not go out there. I would never be able to live that down. So that is done. That is fine. That is fun. I happen to have a moment in my day where I thought that I would check in and talk about this wonderful book that I finished reading a couple of days ago. This is Dragon Fruit by Unfortunately, I don't remember, but the picture is here. I do have a physical copy of this, but not in my classroom on me. And it was really fun. This is a YA, a younger YA. Well, it's pretty gruesome. We'll say YA fantasy, based on the South Pacific, like Legends of the South Pacific. And it is about Hanali, a young girl who has been ostracized from her family because her dad saved her once by stealing a dragon's egg and having her consume it. And that is you're supposed to be able to make a wish and redo or undo something that is a plague in your life of some sort. And so when she was young, she was very sick. And so he did this thing and he had to flee with her. He dies and she is out in the world living on her own, but she knows so much about sea dragons. There are people who hunt them because they want these eggs. And there's a lot of sea dragon cruelty in this, but not to the point. I don't read books where animals are harmed or anything as a general rule. I don't know if it was because they are fantasy animals or if it was because of the writing, the richness of the writing. It didn't bother me too much, and it usually does. Maybe I'm just getting hard-hearted. I doubt it though. And there's a point, like when I say gruesome, so there's a point in the story where some people get swallowed by a sea dragon and they kill the sea dragon and cut them out because she says, sometimes there's enough air in the stomach that they'll survive. And so it's like very descriptive of the guts and the pulling and all that fun stuff. So it gets a little gruesome, but it's also really well paced with great character development. It's a standalone. There's a little love story. There's a little family story. There's a little identity. There's a lot of really interesting magic that I haven't really seen before. It's just very well done. Very well done. My one thing with it is that there are a few things that happen near the end to kind of tie up loose ends. They're not necessarily convenient. In fact, they're kind of not the way I wanted things to go, but I feel like they are the only way they could have gone. So I don't think the author made a bad choice. I think she just didn't have enough time because of the relative shortness. It's about 340-ish pages, maybe 360-ish pages. It's relatively short for a fantasy, and it's definitely short for a fantasy of this scope. Until the end, it didn't feel like that was a problem. And then in the end, when some of these things started to come together or to end, or a certain particular event, which I will not mention, happens, it felt not abrupt, but it just felt, I guess maybe abrupt. Not in the pacing, but to my heart. And so I feel like if the author had had more time to kind of move us, the reader, into that, it would have been a stronger book. As it is, it's a very strong book. I highly recommend it. It is readable. It is just readable is the greatest word I can give to it. It is wonderful. It is immersive. You lose yourself in it. Yeah, it's a little bit compulsive. It's a little bit compulsive. And Hanali and Sam, the two kind of love interests, it's a little bit second chance romance because they were friends and he really liked her when they were very young. And then when she returns, they get reunited. And it's a little bit enemies. They don't necessarily know if they can trust each other, but they do trust each other. And a little second chance romance between two young people. And it's very sweet. It's very sweet. Yeah, really liked it. Really liked this book. It was really, really fun. I would read it again for sure. I would even gift it to people. And I will definitely be recommending it to my 8th graders and older. So yeah, highly recommend. A win. Also a win with lip sync this year. Super fun. I'm gonna try and get some work done. It's a Friday afternoon. I don't know how much I will actually do. Hello. Excuse the voice. I have allergies, like raging allergies, but I just finished The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and we're talking another contender for my favorite book of the year. This was so wonderful. Basic premise is what you keep hearing, but so much more. I keep hearing people guess that based on the cover that this is some sort of vampire tale. There are no vampires. It's better. It's better than vampires, if you ask me. This book is dark and brooding and fast-paced and exciting and heartbreaking and triumphant. It is about, I'm going to get her name wrong. I think it's Luzia. It's about a girl named Luzia. That's just how I'm going to say it. And she is a scullery maid. She is she's kind of an orphan. Her aunt is a prostitute, like a courtesan maybe. And she's in a relationship with her aunt, but the aunt and her pretend like they don't know each other. And the girl can do magic. And her kind of small employer, like a small person, like not in size, but in personality, in the space she takes up in the world, in her strength and her courage and her character, kind of a small woman. She wants a whole lot more out of life, and she's not sure how to get it. And so when she learns what her scullery maid can do, she starts to put her on show at dinner parties, to try and get people to come to dinner parties at her house so that she can start to rise in the social ranks. And this backfires. It gets a whole lot of attention on the family. It gets a whole lot of attention on her during a time when doing magic can get you killed, because this is the Spanish Inquisition. And the girl's magic comes partly from Hebrew, because she is Jewish, but she's been pretending to be a Christian for a really long time. And it's a ride. It is a ride. There are so many things I want to say that I can't say because I don't want to ruin it for you. Like, I didn't really know what it was about beyond the girl who can do magic and maybe this gets her the attention of the king. Like, that's there. But it is so much more than that. This is an amazing book. The whole time I was like, I can't wait till this is a movie. It'll make a really wonderful movie. This possible favorite read of the year. I absolutely loved this. I'm filming on my phone and I wrote down quotes from the book. I didn't mark them in the book. I was reading so fast and I didn't have tabs and I just wanted to keep going. But there are some amazing quotes in this book, but they're on my phone and I can't access them because I'm recording on my phone. So maybe I will put some quote cards or something here. Oh, my heart. I love this book. I loved the ending of this book. It is just everything that I wanted at that moment. I also finished reading Sophie Kinsella's 20s Girl this month. This moved way up in my Sophie Kinsella standalone book ratings. I'd only ever read this once, and I had listened to it while packing for a move. And I remember enjoying it, but I didn't really pay that much attention. I paid a lot of nostalgic attention to it this time. And I will always remember it now, not because it's a great laugh out loud, funny, heartwarming book. It has so much heart, this book, that is very much what I love about Sophie Kinsella's writing, in addition to being supernatural, which is not like Sophie Kinsella's writing. There's a ghost in it. But I will always remember it because this is the Sophie Kinsella I was reading when Sophie Kinsella let the world know that she has brain cancer, which I'm holding her family in prayer. She has young children. She is a very beloved author, has a large influence on so many people. And it's just a very sad thing. It's just a very sad thing to have happened. A professor of mine, one of my favorite professors from university, from my undergraduate degree, recently died after a years-long battle with the exact same form of brain cancer. I know that she could have years, she could have weeks. You know, they gave him, I think, a 4-month or a 6-month outlook, and then he ended up living a really wonderful, full, complete life for 4 more years. So you never know what's going to happen. But I just wish her and her family so much peace and joy and special time together. I will continue to read, just as I have planned on reading a Sophie Kinsella every month. And this one will always be the one. I will always remember this is the one that I was reading when she announced her sad news. It is the last day before the last day of the month. It is the penultimate day of the month. And I am in good. I'm in deep to these 3. Not how I pictured it. The middle window and One of Us is lying. I'm in deep. This one is not loving it so far. This one is great, but I just haven't had, I keep leaving it by my bedside table and then being too tired to read it at night. I've not read much this month at all. And this one is super fun. This is another second chance romance, and that has been the theme of this particular month without me even trying to make it the theme. Just this idea of people coming back into your life. I'm 219 pages into this one, and it is all about this group of people who were in kind of like a 90210 type show in their early adulthood, late teens, early adulthood. And when that show ended, it ended kind of because of some explosive relationship stuff and in real life and in the actors' real lives, the fictional actors' real lives. And they get back together to do like a reunion season of the show, and they're playing the parents to kids. On their way to the location for filming, their ship breaks down and they end up on an island in, I think, the Bermudas. And it's kind of an uninhabited island, except that there is a big old mansion on it. And they've found a generator and they are surviving. But through it all, it's really like this elaborate close proximity trope where these two people who used to be quite close, have a second chance to get to know each other again. I mean, almost everything I've read this month has been second chance romance or about a split up and a reunion. Almost everything I've watched this month has been about that. It has been a theme, an unintentional theme, and I guess if this is your sign, that if you've been waiting to reach out to someone, now's the time to do it, because I have a bunch of books on my shelf back there that will tell you it's going to work out fine. Yeah, unintentional theme. So many books I did not read this month. 3 that I just showed you, I'll finish in May. So what is that? That's 9, 10, 11. I only read 11 books this month. 11. I don't even know what I did. I worked, I guess. I worked. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's a wrap. That's a wrap on April. Just gonna keep chugging right along into May with some April books. And my TBR is gigantic because I want to read all the books I didn't read in May, plus all the books I want to read in May. We'll see what happens. We will see how far I get. All in all, really great reading month. And I'll see you later. In the meantime, let's go read.